And I suspect that communism originally was not a utopia. I think that's in the same way as original Christianity, it had a particular kind of vision. And this vision is a society, a mode of organization within the society in which humans can coexist at scale without coercion. Mm-hmm. The same way as we do in a healthy family, right? In a good family, you don't terrorize each other into compliance, but you understand what everybody needs and what everybody is able to contribute and what the intended future of the whole thing is. And everybody coordinates their behavior in the right way and informs each other about how to do this. And all the interactions that happen are instrumental to making that happen, right? Mm-hmm. Could this happen at scale? And I think this is the idea of communism. Communism is opposed to the idea that we need economic terror or other forms of terror to make that happen. But in practice, what happened is that the proto-communist countries, the real existing socialism, replaced a part of the economic terror with moral terror, right? So we were told to do the right thing for moral reasons. And of course, it didn't really work. And the economy eventually collapsed. And the moral terror had actual real cost, right? People were in prison because they were morally non-compliant. And that is the other thing is that the idea of communism became a utopia. So it basically was projected into the afterlife. We were told in my childhood that communism was a hypothetical society to which we were in a permanent revolution that justified everything that was presently wrong with society, morally. Mm-hmm. But it was something that our grandchildren probably would not ever see, because it was too ideal and too far in the future to make it happen right now. And people were just not there yet morally. And the same thing happened with Christianity, right? This notion of heaven was mythologized and projected into an afterlife. And I think this was just the idea of God's kingdom, of this world in which we instantiate the next level transcendental agent in the perfect form. So everything goes smoothly and without violence and without conflict and without this human messiness, on this economic messiness and the terror and coercion that existed in the present societies. And the idea of whether humans can exist at scale in a harmonious way, non-coercively, is untested. Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of people tested it, but didn't get it to work so far. Mm-hmm. And a utopia is a world in where you get all the good things without any of the bad things. And you are, I think, very susceptible to believe in utopias when you are very young and don't understand that everything has to happen in causal patterns, that there is always feedback loops that ultimately are closed. There's nothing that just happens because it's good or bad. Good or bad don't exist in isolation. They only exist with respect to larger systems.
So can you intuit why utopias fail as systems? So like having a utopia that's out there beyond the horizon, is it because then so it's not only because it's impossible to achieve utopias, but it's because certain small number of humans start to sort of greedily attain power and money and control and influence as they become as they see the power in using this idea of a utopia for propaganda.
It's a bit like saying, why is my garden not perfect? It's because some evil weeds are overgrowing it, and they always do.
Yeah.
Right. But this is not how it works. A good garden is a system that is in balance and requires minimal interactions by the gardener. And so you need to create a system that is designed to self-stabilize. And the design of social systems requires not just the implementation of the desired functionality, but the next level design, also in biological systems. You need to create a system that wants to converge to the intended function. Right? So instead of just creating an institution like the FDA that is performing a particular kind of role in society, you need to make sure that the FDA is actually driven by a system that wants to do this optimally, that is incentivized to do it optimally, and then makes the performance that is actually enacted in every generation instrumental to that thing, that actual goal, right? And that is much harder to design and to achieve.
So you have to design a system where, I mean, listen, communism also was quote unquote incentivized to be a feedback loop system that achieves that utopia. It's just, it wasn't working given human nature. So the incentives were not correct given human nature.
So how do you incentivize people when they are getting coal off the ground to work as hard as possible? Yeah. Because it's a terrible job and it's very bad for your health. And right? How do you do this? And you can give them prices and medals and status to some degree, right? There's only so much status to give for that, and most people will not fall for this, right? Or you can pay them, or and you probably have to pay them in an asymmetric way, because if you pay everybody the same and they you nationalize the coal mines, eventually people will figure out that they can game the system.
Yes. So you're describing capitalism. So
capitalism is the present solution to the system. Yeah. And what we also noticed that I think that Marx was correct in saying that capitalism is prone to crisis, that capitalism is a system that in its dynamics is not convergent but divergent. It's not a stable system. And that eventually it produces an enormous potential for productivity, but it also is systematically misallocating resources. So a lot of people cannot participate in the production and consumption anymore. Right? And this is what we observe. We observe that the middle class in the US is tiny. It's a lot of people think that they're middle class, but if you are still flying economy, you're not middle class. Right? Every class is a magnitude
That's
smaller than the previous class. And right? The thing about classes is really like airline classes. There is the no-fly class. A lot of people are economy
have
class,
we really
business class, and very few are first class, and some are jet.
I mean, I understand. I think there's maybe some people, probably I would push back against that definition of the middle class. It does feel like the middle class is pretty large, but yes, there's a discrepancy in terms of wealth.
So if
there's
you
a
think
big
about
wealth
in
gap.
terms of the productivity that our society could have,
there
is no reason for anybody to fly economy, right? We would be able to let everybody travel in style.
Well, but also some people like to be frugal even when they're billionaires. Okay, so like that let's take that into account.
Yes, but I mean, we probably don't need to be traveling lavish, but you also don't need to be tortured, right? There is a difference between frugal and subjecting yourself to torture.
Listen, I love economy. I don't understand why you're comparing flying economy to torture.